Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And in this one, I'm going to be running down some commentary in regards to Restoration Druid and the healing experience currently on the Midnight beta, with Midnight obviously coming out now in about 2 months at the beginning of March. We're starting to come pretty close to the finish line. So how is it really starting to cook up here? So the first thing I've noticed, at least on Resto Druid specifically, is that it's not as global cooldown demanding because they have stripped a lot of your heal over time effects out of the game. So with the build that I'm playing, I pretty much have Life Bloom and Rejuvenation as my kind of primary healing applications, and that's all that you really need to focus on. And then when you go into tree form, it obviously enables regrowth to then become instant cast, which obviously is still standard play for Resto Druid, but it's a lot simpler than it was previously, as opposed to before. With Cenarian Ward, you'd have to apply it, and then you'd want to try and extend it with your Swift Mend. I'm not even playing the extended hot talents with this current build of Resto Druid, and obviously that added a lot of extra complexity to the spec. Like, where were you going to put your big Soul to Forest heal, and how are you going to extend it and navigate around it? They've improved the UI also. You can see on my party frames here on the left, these rejuvenations that are like bright pink. That means these rejuvenations are empowered, so you don't want to replace them, because now you can see right when I refreshed it here, it became this kind of dull pink color. That means it's not a supercharged rejuve, and it's going to be healing for less, so I don't want to replace this. So that UI experience is definitely well received. They've also additionally added that cooldowns show up on your party frames, so you can see that I've activated Iron Bark on this Druid, and you can see it lasting until it's gone on the frame. Now, I do wish that I could move that icon from the center of the screen to like the left of the screen, simply because it covers up the entire bar and I can't see the dots, I can't see my hots, and it gets very cumbersome. And I think that likely will be the same in PvE, so that is one thing I do hope will be improved. But the main goal of the Midnight expansion in regards to healing is to make the game less one-shotty, whether it's PvE or it's PvP, is to make it so that you spend more time in between 100% and 0% and have more time to think about your actions. Are you going to use an attacking global? What type of healing global do you want to use? And when I've been playing Resto Druid here, I've been playing Resto Druid for multiple expansions. I've been at the top of the ladder. I've been a tournament winner on it. I can say that I feel like I have the most time of almost any expansion to kind of just like sit there for a couple of seconds and think about what I want to press, which is obviously not the case in the War Within. If you're not immediately thinking about the next best global to press, you might get one shot and the game might just immediately be over for you. So I do think that's an improvement, and that's a goal that they've aimed to alleviate kind of the pressures of healing as a beginner player or as a new player. So if you're interested in trying healing, I think that this is likely going to be kind of the peak expansion in order to get into the role. Although I will say we are obviously still in kind of beta phase testing when it comes to class balance. There are some classes that can do extremely high burst damage in certain situations, but a lot of the other ones can't. And even like the most extreme burst situations, I don't know if they're as extreme as like Marksmanship Hunter or as some of the highest Mythic Plus keystones that are currently in the War Within. So I think that this is a great position to be in at about 2 months into the Midnight beta, assuming that they're going to continue to do changes to get the game exactly where they're intending to as far as their goals. And I believe they are doing a lot of dungeon testing this week, so likely a huge amount of class tuning is going to be rolled forward as a result of that testing. So if you want to make sure you're staying up to date with that, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out, because I'm always relaying those patch note updates and my thoughts on them whenever they are happening. But here, moving into the second round, same situation. I've got my Rejuve and my Life Bloom out. Life Bloom is functioning a lot differently in this expansion. It's going to stack up over time on the target. You know, the first iteration of Life Bloom, you manually stacked it and had to press it 3 times. Now it just passively starts ramping up. And so then you've got to take the consideration of, do I want to switch that Life Bloom to a different target? Should it stay on this target? And I do like the thought process behind it. It has a huge amount of value because it also summons efflorescence under the player's feet. So you want to consider, is this player near other players? Can I get some extra AoE healing out of it? So this iteration of Life Bloom is a nice kind of medium place where it's not as global demanding as the first iteration of it, but it has a lot more thought behind it than the War Within iteration, and makes it more competitive in an AoE environment. So it's actually an ability, at least in PvE, that you're going to be interested in pressing. You still have all of the fun little shape-shifting goodies on this class as well, as you saw my bear form and my wild charge to root that shaman from getting back to his target, and that is one of the main staples of the Resto Druid, is the shape-shifting capabilities that it has, and how you use the new Heart of the Wild, which is a 2-minute cooldown. You can use it to increase your stamina when you're in bear form. You can use it to Starfall if you talent into balance form, and you can use it to Feral Frenzy the target if you're in cat form. So you have a lot of decision making with it. However, in PvP situations, it's not going to be making your cyclones faster. So the cast speed that you have is the cast speed that you have, and that is it. But obviously, with the reduction of the overall heal over time effects, this is likely going to put less importance on the mastery stat, which will hopefully mean that you can get more haste, which is going to enable more of the fun stuff about Druid, right? Which is cycloning and shapeshifting, which I'm able to do in this position right now. And obviously with the slowed down pace of the game, you have a little bit more time to think about control. Like, how do I want to take the shaman out of the game? I've cycloned him twice, I've rooted him twice, and you can't do it 3 times because that third DR is gone. So he's probably pretty happy about those DR changes, so he doesn't have to worry about it too much. And now I'm switching these cyclones over to the priest. So I still feel like I have some finesse options when it comes to the Resto Druid. Now, obviously, healing against some of the strongest and most oppressive classes, you may just feel like, oh my god, we're getting overwhelmed, it's unhealable, I don't think we're going to be able to handle this. And that's where I think more testing and more tuning will likely bring those kind of pain points back up from where they are. And I'm playing a Wild Stalker build of Resto Druid as opposed to the Keeper of the Grove. I wanted to just try something completely different than the current builds. I think that for a lot of things that there's a lot of room for exploration with how many abilities were removed, synergies were added, how many abilities were combined. I think this is the expansion where you don't want to just be like relying on your old build. I think this is time to experiment. So if you're somebody who's interested in that, you like building the talent trees and building your stat allocation out and trying out different builds, that this is going to be a really fun time to play the game, because I think it is a really big moment of discovery. But for a lot of people, they hate that. They just want to know what's the best build and they don't want to be playing with anything else. But for me, I really like the experimental phase here. So again, we can cat form, we can shapeshift, we can stun still. We've got some PP talents that make Star Surge amplify our heal over time effects. So we've still got a lot of options, and you still got the old tech of like activating your defensive cooldowns before going aggressive. So I Iron Barked this Druid before I went for Cyclones, but you can see the amount of damage that my teammates are taking, right, from the Unholy Death Knight and the Enhancement Shaman. These classes have some very strong cooldown burst windows. If you are healing on the beta, I would highly suggest that you dispel Soul Reaper from the target against Unholy Death Knights, because this thing is amplifying their damage by a huge amount, and dispelling it is the only real significant counter to deal with that incoming amount of damage. But once we've survived that initial wave of cooldowns, we try to get a little bit more cheeky and aggressive with our bear forms and our Star Surges, and maybe move closer to the priest and try to get some cyclones while still maintaining heal over time effects on my allies so that I don't fall too far behind. But here I like just adding damage in. I can see that my balanced Druid player has cycled the enemy healer, so my team's topped off, they don't have cooldowns. I'm going to try and chuck in a couple of globals to do some damage, and I feel like I actually have the time to do that without being like paranoid about the next instant CC hitting me, the next micro stun, and then immediately dying like previous iterations of the game. So I think that feeling is definitely significantly improved. We've still got these instant roots. I can root the priest so they can't run away from our cyclone here. We can toss out some heals while my partners are trading out their defensive cooldowns, and I'm still just kind of looking for cyclones in the back, tossing out some damage and amping up my hots at the same time. So for me, I actually enjoyed my Resto Druid on my most recent playthrough, and it was weird because this week of testing, I've been playing the Midnight Beta pretty much every day throughout the testing phases, and this week it felt different, but they didn't post any class changes. So I was very confused how, like, it felt improved significantly without any class changes being posted. And I know sometimes when they post class changes, the PvP ones aren't included. Or then maybe later they're added or something like that. But I don't know how it's possible for the game to feel so significantly different. I think maybe also it's some stuff was bugged. Like there was certain gear that was scaling really high item level and people were abusing embellishments. So maybe that's likely something they've fixed and they just didn't post anything about because the pacing felt just way better on this round of testing. So if you're kind of sitting around, you're running out of things to do in the War Within. And obviously the pre-patch is going to be coming out pretty soon. If you get the Epic Edition, you can get access to the Midnight Beta and you can start experimenting with these builds and try to get a little bit of an edge and figure out how your class is going to work in the pacing of the game and if you like it or not, a little bit ahead of schedule if you want to. Or you can tune into my live streams, which I'm doing pretty much every afternoon to evening, and I'll be experimenting with all the different classes, every single role. I've played every class in this game to significantly high ratings, and I really just want to make sure the game is the best it can be for every single specialization, because everybody deserves to have a good time in the game, and that is my goal with it. Having any sort of bias towards one spec being more OP over the others is not my concern. I've got more than enough titles that I'm not trying to create some sort of biased advantage for myself in order to get another title. I just want the game to be really popular and successful so that there's more people playing it, so that we can all have more fun with it. Our queue times are faster, obviously, right? And the healing roll is a big deal when it comes to getting faster queue time. So if the healing roll feels more satisfying, more fulfilling, then I think that's going to be a very important first step. But for me on Resto Druid right now, I'm actually enjoying where it's currently sitting. I'm going to have to play with it more, see what the changes are for dungeons, see what the changes are for PvP moving forward, rolling out for the rest of this week. But I actually had a really good time with it, which I haven't in a long time. I actually kind of burned out on Resto Druid and wanted to put it down for a bit. So this was definitely kind of like a nice playthrough for me on the Resto Druid. So I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown and this discussion. It's got you excited to try some things out with the Midnight Beta. Trust me, I'm fully well and aware that there are some things that need some work, like the damage meter. My God, the damage meter, not having enemy damage, not being able to really inspect what exactly is healing for how much on it. It's really only useful for showing you if you're number one or not. And even then, I'm not sure if it's 100% working. But the damage meter definitely needs some improvements. I think adding a couple of extra, you see how Incarnation here on the Balance Druid is next to their health bar? Adding that with a couple of other spells and abilities, I think will likely be necessary in order to kind of like see what's going on in the game, see which ones of your teammates are using stuff and how can you synergize or enable them the best. I think that these changes will likely be very well received. But I also kind of like the stripped down UI and no add-ons, because it makes room for mistakes, and everybody's making them, instead of having the robot weak or a computer foghorn playing the game for you and everyone's a perfect player. I think when you make mistakes, Arena actually becomes more fun to play. So I'm actually excited to try it with more of a stripped down UI, but I really wish that I could have more analytics as far as the damage meter is concerned, and I don't know how they're going to accomplish that, because you can also see diminishing returns. They're tracked here on the left of the frame, so this brown swirly thing, that's supposed to mean polymorph diminishing return. If you didn't know, it seems like they just randomly selected one. And then this one, though, the root one, shows an entangling root, so it's a little more straightforward, like, oh, that's the root one. I kind of wish these tooltip DR trackers were like class specific. So if you're playing a mage, even if somebody, let's say, incaps the target, right, it shows a poly icon to show they're on poly DR. Having like this tooltip be kind of retroactively adapting to whatever class you're playing, which I think it should be able to. Game can detect you're a mage, game can detect that an incap was applied, and then show you a polymorph icon, I'd assume. That way we're not picking some icon no one's ever seen before, because I think people will be definitely looking at this like, what is that? But maybe it won't matter, because the fact that information is displayed, if you downloaded Gladius, Gladius will likely do what I've just said. And I'll have to experiment on that with some add-ons as well in the beta to see what does and what doesn't work. But they do have the diminishing returns. The only thing you don't have is an interrupt tracker, but a lot of the cooldown reduction on interrupts is removed. So it's like when they use the kick, you know pretty much statically how long that kick is going to be available. And I actually kind of like not knowing exactly when it's up, because it's like there's a little bit of a mind game there. Like I've pushed in on enemy healers when they think I have a stun and I don't, and then they use a fade to try and immune it. And that's kind of a fun mind game element that didn't exist when you have all of the information as transparent as you do in the current version of the game. So, but let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think that this is a good step forward for the game? Is this getting you interested in trying it? Are you guys one of those just doomsday players that the game is going to die no matter what? Let me know in the comments down below. But thank you guys very much for tuning into the video today. Hope you guys enjoyed the discussion and the gameplay, and I will see you in the next one.